His father was a prince. He watched soldiers torture him to death, right in front of his eyes. Then they chained him, marched him 1,000 miles to a ship, and sold him for 4 gallons of rum. He was 6 years old, and for the next 30 years, every single night after his master went to sleep, he worked, he saved, he counted coins in the dark, because he had a plan no slave was supposed to have. He was going to buy himself back. This is the true story of Venture Smith, and almost nobody knows it. Around the year 1729, in a settlement called Dukandara, somewhere in the savannah region of present-day Guinea, West Africa, a boy was born. His name was Brotia Furo. His father, Sangam Furo, was the Prince of Dukandara, not a metaphorical title, not a legend, a real man with real authority who ruled his people with structure and honor. Brotia grew up herding sheep. He played, he learned. He had siblings, a mother, a home, a language, an identity. He had a future that stretched out in front of him, with the same certainty that the sun rose every morning over the West African savannah. Hold that image, because it is about to be destroyed. When Brotia was around 6 years old, an army came. On the way out, his father discovered a scouting party and discharged arrows at them. They were all captured. The invaders knew Sangam Furo had money and wealth. They interrogated him. He refused to tell them where it was hidden, so they tortured him to death in front of his son. Brotia would never forget it. Decades later, as an old man going blind, he still couldn't speak of it without breaking. His own words. The shocking scene is to this day fresh in my mind, and I have often been overcome while thinking on it. The survivors were chained together and forced to march. Not 10 miles, not 100. The captors drove the prisoners roughly 1,000 miles toward the coast. Children, women, elderly, marching in chains under the African sun toward a place none of them had ever seen. Then something strange happened. Another raiding party attacked the captors and defeated them, but Brotia was still not freed. He remained in bondage and eventually arrived at Anomabu, the British slave trading dungeon on the Gold Coast in present-day Ghana. He was walked under an arch called the Door of No Return and transferred onto a slave ship. The name of that door tells you everything. An officer on a Rhode Island slaver purchased him for 4 gallons of rum and a piece of calico cloth. The vessel was likely the charming Susanna, which departed Newport in late 1738 and returned in September 1739. And right there, on that ship, they took the last thing he had left, his name. They gave him the name Venture, because purchasing the young child was considered a good venture, a business investment, a prince's son, renamed after a transaction. When most people picture American slavery, they picture the Deep South, cotton fields, Louisiana plantations, Georgia heat. But Venture Smith's story destroys that comfortable geography. In Newport, where the slave traders landed, Venture, and in the fertile New York and Connecticut farmland along the eastern end of Long Island Sound, as many as 1 in 5 people were of African origin. 1 in 5. In New England, during the 1740s and early 1750s, George Mumford owned Venture. Mumford rented Fisher's Island and operated the 3,000-acre property as a large commercial farm, raising mostly sheep and dairy cows. Venture grew into a man of extraordinary size and strength. Historical records describe him as 6 feet 2 inches tall, weighing 300 pounds, sometimes called the Black Pole Bunyan of Connecticut. He married a fellow enslaved woman named Meg. They had children, a family built inside captivity, which meant every person he loved was also someone's property. And that is when the plan began to form. How does a man with no legal rights, no property, and no protection save enough money to purchase his own body? The answer is, with brutal, relentless discipline, every single night. His enslavers allowed him, after the ordinary labor on the days of his servitude, to improve the nights in fishing and other employments to his own emolument. So Venture worked his master's land by day. Then, when the sun went down, he worked for himself. He cut firewood, he threshed grain, he cleared land, he piloted fishing boats in the dark waters of Long Island Sound. He grew his own produce and sold it. Every coin he earned, he hid, saved, protected, but the system fought back constantly. His time under Thomas Stanton began peacefully, but turned violent when Stanton attacked him with a boat oar. When Venture went to local authorities to complain about the abuse, he was dismissed. No court would hear him. No law protected him. The money he saved could be confiscated at any moment. The freedom he was working toward could be revoked with a single word from his owner, and still, he kept counting his coins. In 1760, Venture was sold to his third enslaver, Colonel Oliver Smith, who was open to Venture's proposal that he could purchase himself if he met the price. Think about what that sentence means. A man negotiating with his owner for the right to own himself. After completing his daily chores, with Colonel Smith's consent, Venture hired himself out to local farmers, cutting firewood, threshing grain, clearing land, and piloting fishing excursions. 5 more years of double labor. 5 more years of sleeping less, working more, saving everything. In 1765, Venture paid Colonel Smith £71 for the purchase of his freedom. He was 36 years old. That £71 and 2 shillings was an enormous sum, enough to purchase hundreds of acres of land. He had earned it, coin by coin, night by night, year by year.